This is Focus, a program that covers the people, places, and events here on Diego Garcia. And now, here's your reporter.
Good evening and welcome to Focus. I'm Navy journalist Kevin Clark. This is the new AIMD facility here on Diego Garcia. In case you're wondering what an AIMD facility is, it's sort of like a mass unit for aircraft. Housed in these trailers are avionics, airframes, and supply elements to support the P-3 aircraft assigned here. Now that in itself is not unique. What is unique is these trailers can be moved within 48 to 72 hours to a new location and be set up and be completely operational. Now, it was never tried before until recently, right here on Diego Garcia. So they made history for the Navy right here on the island with this AIMD facility.
The project was to move the entire AIMD facility across the road to a more permanent foundation. 59 trailers in all had to be readied for the event, moved, and then made operational again. It took hundreds of man-hours to accomplish, but the 80 to 100 people working to get the job done managed without incident. Lieutenant Commander R.F. Muncie, the AIMD officer, explained what problems were foreseen in planning the move.
Well, some of the problems we anticipated was unknown weather. Over here in Diego, we have a lot of rainy periods, quick showers. We had to anticipate that. Also, we anticipated some of the vans had the forklift holes where they could be easily moved. Some of them did not, depending on the age, if they were old or new. We also anticipated the van movement, where they were going to be placed from where they were presently. The new complex had them spray painted so that the crane operator could tell where to place each of the vans. Those were just some of the problems that we weren't able to anticipate.
And so it began in less than ideal weather conditions. The first phase of the operation called for the dismantling of the trailers, which were then picked up by fork trucks and moved to a staging area. Master Chief Wesley is the AIMD Maintenance and Material Control Officer for the command, and he explained that as soon as the first set of trailers had been staged, they were faced with an unforeseen problem.
As we moved away the first van that we could get to with a forklift, we put the doors on. Well, we found out right away that the doors weren't marked to the ones that they had come off of, so we had trouble lining up bolt holes, screw holes, and actually getting the doors on. All this time we're watching the clouds come around us. After we got the first finger of vans off, we noticed that there were the concrete block pads that they had been setting on, and they were fastened into the ground with rebar. We had to come in with a forklift and physically lift these things out of the ground in order for the forklift to get to the next group of vans. That was something that we were totally unprepared for.
Moving the trailers to the new site was accomplished again by a fork truck, but it also identified another problem. The newer trailers were constructed with lift slots built into the frame, making it easier to pick them up. The older trailers were not. But the relocation continued. The trailers were lifted onto flatbed trucks that would carry them to the new location. Once on site, they were again staged for the crane operator. In order to make the placement of the trailers easier, the cement stanchions were spray painted with the corresponding trailer number. This way, the crane operator and the ground crew chief could easily identify the next trailer needed. Now working in better weather, things began to go more quickly, but as the crane began to set the trailers in place, another problem became apparent. The old trailers were not the same height as the newer ones, requiring each to be blocked up in order to flush up against the trailers already in place. Also, some of the concrete stanchions were misplaced, requiring more blocking to offset the difference. Prior planning, though, had eliminated many of the problems associated with a move of this magnitude. For instance, the bunting between the trailers had to be held back when the next trailer was swung into place, a potentially hazardous maneuver. This was accomplished safely and easily, however, by using a piece of rope strapped to the bunting and held back by someone in the trailer. This little improvisation was just one of the keys to a safe move.
I don't recall any injuries. If there were, they were a fingernail scrape or a sprain, maybe, but no major injuries whatsoever.
The entire facility was taken down, moved, and set up again in 4 days, only 2 of which were normal work days. This type of rapid movement is just what the mobile unit is designed for, and it was carried out successfully here on Diego Garcia. Lieutenant Commander Muncie explained what advantages the new facility provides.
There are a lot of the advantages were that we were on island power over there. Here we were on generators with we have generators as backup power over there now. It's a secure area. We have a large fence around it. The complex is a little closer. We have all the mechanical vans in one area, and all the avionics are all in one area. It's much easier to do corrosion work, and there are some of the advantages to the van move.
The only detrimental aspect of the new facility is the concrete block supporting the trailers. Although making corrosion control work much easier, Master Chief Wesley was concerned with the mobile aspect of the unit.
Right now, my mobile maintenance facility is only mobile if I have a crane on site. I can get a forklift to the outside vans, but I cannot get a forklift to the inner vans that are on top of these 2.5-foot stanchions. I have to have a crane here capable of lifting these vans to move them.
100 people working 4 days to move an entire facility. It was hard work in less than ideal weather conditions, but it was done. A total team effort and a first for AIMD here and for the Navy.
One of the hazards of flying military aircraft, or any aircraft for that matter, is that you have to plan for the unexpected, crashing. There's a facility here on Diego Garcia that's part of AIMD called the Paraloft, and that's their entire job, making sure that just in case the aircraft goes down, that the survival equipment, life rafts and such, are all in perfect working order. Navy journalist Kathy Hines recently went to the Paraloft and filed this report.
The history of the parachute goes back to the early 1300s when Chinese experimenters were reported to have jumped off the Great Wall of China using devices resembling umbrellas. The first design sketch of a parachute was drawn by famous inventor and painter Leonardo da Vinci in 1495. It wasn't until much later that parachutes were made and tried out, but they were never considered more than a joke or a daredevil apparatus. It wasn't until March 1924 that it became mandatory for all Navy and Army aircrew to wear parachutes while in flight. The parachute was no longer considered a joke. The military then recruited petty officers from the service to become parachute riggers, or PRs. One modern-day PR who works at the NAF Paraloft is Parachute Rigger Second Class Paul Tuttle. What's the mission of the Paraloft right here on Diego Garcia?
To support the VP outfits that come through here, VRC-50, OMD, and any aircraft that could come in here that needs fabrication work, parachutes done, or flotation work done, or the aircrew themselves needing work done on their gear.
PR Tuttle's duties include inspecting each piece of survival gear that comes into the shop.
Things like our CDI markers, these things we got to check them for discoloration. If they start turning orange, then at that point we know that the dye marker inside the pouch is opened up and the dye marker is coming out. And it starts turning the thing orange. Okay, we have canned water. We have to check it, what we call a slap test. Like this. If you hear a metallic sound, a metallic slap, then you know that it still has a vacuum inside. Without the vacuum inside, the water will go bad. We have some equipment, some pieces, like our strobe light. It's one of the signaling lights. We have to check it, make sure the battery's good, see if it blinks enough times, and everything. We have certain test equipment for each one of these. We have first aid kit. We have to check things inside of it that have expiration dates. If it is expired, we have to replace it, so it's good. And then on this point, once everything has been checked and everything has been determined good, we put it back into the containers that each piece goes into. Now each piece has to be wrapped with either bubble wrap or a rubber-backed nylon cloth. Okay, and then it has to be secured with rubber bands. We put this back into the containers that they belong in, set these off to the side, then we finish our checks on the life raft itself.
What else do you do besides preparing survival gear?
We do parachutes here. We work with what we call LPUs. These are life preservers.
The ones that made West or so
No,
they're called?
no, those are LPPs. The LPUs are worn by the aircrew themselves. Okay, LPPs are for passengers in the aircraft. Okay, we have some other things over here. We have what we call horse collars. We have a forest penetrator. The horse collars are for lifting people out of the water. Your forest penetrator is for lifting people out of the water or when they're down in the jungle. If the man's plane goes down, he comes out, he lands in the jungle. This can be dropped into the trees, pick the man up and bring him back. It can also be used for water rescue because it has a flotation collar attached to it.
And you maintain these all?
Yes, we do checks on them. Your horse collars have a certain check we got to do to them, where we've got to test how many pounds. They got to hold up to 500 pounds.
Besides maintaining these items, the PR is also a bit of a sewer, repairing containers, cushions, fabrics, and some minor work on the parachutes. Part of the process of packing parachutes is to check the gores, or sections of the parachute's canopy.
You're separating the gores at this section right here. We're whipping the canopy right here.
What does that do?
That gets all the gores straightened out, smoothed out.
Okay, why'd you bring them both together?
Okay, we got to bring it together to make this parachute smaller so we can go into a container. This is the finished product.
Presently, there are 3 parachute riggers working here at the NAF Paraloft, and they're all working as busy as ever to keep your survival equipment in tip-top shape. Reporting for TV8 and Focus, I'm journalist Kathy Hines.
I think one of the things I've missed the most since being here on Diego Garcia is not being able to just jump into the car and go out cruising, although it is rather hard to cruise in a 1967 Volkswagen. I guess it's always been one of my dreams to go out and buy myself a car that I can cruise down the boulevard in and be proud of. Now I have that opportunity, thanks to some representatives at the ship store that are here to make all of my dreams come true. Navy journalist Kathy Hines has more on that story.
Would you like to own your own dream machine? A 1985 car, van, motorcycle, or truck made to your own specifications and shipped stateside or overseas. Right now at the ship store, 3 military contracted Ford, GM, and Chrysler dealers are on hand selling brand new Trans Ams, Fieros, Harleys, Broncos, and maybe even your own dream car. Chrysler will be on island until Saturday, March 2nd. GM and Ford until Wednesday, March 6th.
It's not a situation whereas here we are 3 men showing up. We have quite a history with the Navy Exchange. Number one is we have worldwide contracts which enables us to utilize this program all throughout Europe as well as the Far East. We've been under this contracts with the Navy Exchange now going on to 20 years. So we have quite a history, we have quite a background, and we have a very, very good delivery rate. And, you know, there's many advantages, like I say, by using your Navy Exchange. You also have direct communication with the exchange people. You'll also have direct communication with the factory, which is an advantage sometimes that you don't have by going through a dealership.
What companies are involved here with the military car sales?
All of your major American automobile manufacturers are involved here. You have General Motors, which represents Buick, Pontiac. You have Chrysler, which represents Plymouth, Dodge. You also have American Motors. You have also Harley-Davidson motorcycles, which are represented here. And you also have Ford Motor Company, trucks and cars, vans, and so forth.
Are these all new vehicles?
Yes, they are. They're all new vehicles.
How far in advance can somebody buy a car? Like if they want an 86 model or 87 model, can they order one?
Not at this time. Right now, your cutoff date for 1986 model, for example, would be approximately July. and that's when they will start taking 86 orders is in July. You can order now for 85 up to July.
The Chrysler dealer will return to Clark Saturday, March 2nd, and the Ford and GM representatives will be leaving Wednesday, March 6th. What kind of financing is available to personnel wishing to purchase a vehicle?
You have three basic means of financing. And we find that the majority of people will use the Navy Federal Credit Union or their Air Force credit unions, which is the best because they do have the best financing interest rates. However, Ford does have financing through Ford Motor Credit. General Motors also has their own financing program, as does Chrysler Motors have their own financing program. The third method is many people choose to use their own hometown banks.
Isn't that kind of a time-consuming basis considering we're here?
Not at all. Here in Diego Garcia, you have the Navy Federal Credit Union right here readily available. I believe they open at 5 o'clock or something like that. What takes place if you're going to use a stateside local bank is you would order the vehicle with us, establish a delivery date 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road. This would give you ample time to write to your bank in the States and get a reply back from them. But we strongly urge that people use their credit unions if at all possible.
If you're only going to be here another 2 weeks and somebody would like to use their home bank, should they contact the people in the Philippines?
Well, I strongly recommend that as soon as you place an order with any of the three companies, I strongly recommend what you do is then you would take in turn and immediately write your bank back home. Also, contact the representative of which you purchased your car through in the Philippines to let them know that you have done this. Whenever you're going to use a stateside bank, I strongly urge that you keep in close communication with the people in the Philippines so that they in turn will know what's transpiring with your order.
Where can these cars be delivered?
Almost any major city in the United States, mostly on your coastal lines. Being the fact that we are overseas, they're very well distributed, like on the East Coast for Europe, on the West Coast for Asia. This way, if we do not have an area in your specific area that you're going to, in most cases you can stop along the way and pick up your vehicle.
What kind of warranties are available?
You have full guarantees and full warranties from the manufacturer, just as if you were buying it through a dealership back home.
And how about insurance?
Now there's a case where you in turn are responsible for acquiring your own insurance, just as if you were to have brought a POV over to, say, the Far East. Your insurance would not be good in the Far East. Therefore, you would have to arrange insurance on your vehicle when you went back to the States. However, you do get computer readouts, which gives you serial numbers and so forth, so that you can start applying for insurance before you actually go back to the States.
What would happen if a person changed their mind about buying a car? Let's say they ran into financial difficulties and they were unable to complete their contract. What would happen then?
Well, they would have the opportunity to cancel their vehicle. The only time there would be any type of charges would be any type of administrative cost, which is very nominal. It could be $30. If you have legitimate, compassionate reasons for canceling an order, you would get a full refund of your money back.
When you visit your car representative, he will show you color and specification charts for the vehicle of your choice.
You actually sit down together and pick out all the combinations you want, the type of seating that you want, the colors that you want, so you are specifically buying a vehicle specially made for you. It's quite an advantage.
Now, let's say a person were to order a car and give the minimum balance due today, for example. How soon before they could expect a car, say, back to California?
The average lead time that's needed is between 65 and 100 days. That varies sometimes with different types of cars which you are ordering. What I mean by that is if you took a basic vehicle, it's nominal time. If you were to go into a special high-performance type vehicle, sometimes it does take an extra 30 days to have it delivered.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Reporting for TV8 in Focus, I'm journalist Kathy Hines.
Well, I think I'll take a 1985 Camaro Z28 5-liter high-output crossfire injection. What do you think? You know, I've been out Diego Garcia for about 9 months now, and I guess that qualifies me as being a native Diegan. But what separates a native from a newcomer? Navy journalist Kathy Hines recently went out on the streets to ask that very question.
To you, what's the difference between a native going to the chow hall and a person who just got here going to the chow hall?
Oh, you know your ways around everything, and you know what to eat, and you know what not to eat.
What not to eat?
Half the food they serve.
How about going out, lifestyles?
Oh, well, you know where the parties are, and you know where all the people hang. And mostly when you just get on the island, you just stay in your room. You don't know what's going on. You just sit and listen to your stereo if you have one, and watch TV. But since I've been here 7 months, I know where to hang.
Where do you hang out?
Usually at the Brick Club or the Seamen's Club.
You've been on the island for 2 years. What is the difference, in your opinion, between a native Diego Garcian and a person who's just gotten to the island?
Well, I guess a native Diego Garcian would be someone that knows the rules and regulations and knows the places to go on the island, things to look for. When you first get here, you don't really know what to expect, what the island's got to offer. There's a lot of nice beaches, places to go. I don't know, I guess, you know, when you've been here for a while, you're just kind of used to the what to expect. You're used to the rainy seasons, the excess sunshine, not staying on the beach too long. It's the little things. You realize that the place is basically what you make it.
Well, do you have any tips for newbies?
Just take one day at a time.
For 2 years, like you.
Yeah. Everybody's not crazy like me.
Thank you. At what point do you think a person becomes a native?
As soon as they, their attitude of accepting the island gears into what's happening here. I don't think that a person could be here for a year and still not feel like a native. It just depends on their attitude towards the island and how much they're going to put into it in their, for their tour here.
Do you have any advice for newbies?
Enjoy it. I mean, people spend thousands of dollars to come to islands like this, and we're getting paid and enjoying ourselves at the same time.
What is the difference between a native and a person who's just gotten here, do you think?
I couldn't tell you. Let me think. A native. A native is probably somebody who's been here 11 months and 29 days, someone who's just about to get on the plane, someone who has just stepped off the plane. The first few days are thinking, oh, this is wonderful. The first week, it hits them, and they're very depressed. But I've gotten over the depression.
At what point do you think you're going to become a native?
The day I get on the plane and leave.
Chaplain Sam, you've been here for approximately 6 months?
8 months.
8 months. What, in your opinion, is the difference between a person who's just gotten here and, say, a native Diego Garcian?
Well, I don't think 8 months makes somebody a native, but I think perhaps the biggest difference between the novice just stepping off of the plane as opposed to somebody who's been here a while is kind of wrapped up in the mystique of the island. At first, people tend to get taken in by the beaches, and it is a very beautiful place, especially this time of year where back in the United States in particular, there's a great deal of inclement weather, snow and ice and that type of thing. And so it is very attractive. I think once a person gets here, we tend to become desensitized to the environment. We become used to the climate. We no longer see that it's beautiful and green. We don't see the advantages of the beaches anymore. And I think that we tend to get involved in our work and involved with the individuals that we work with and that we live with, and start to take the island and the beauty of the island and the beauty of nature for granted.
I'm Tom Campo.
And you work it out weather?
Right, NOCD.
How long have you been on the island?
Well, I've got about 70 days to go, so I guess I've been here about almost 10 months.
Tell me, what, in your opinion, is the difference between a native and a person who just has gotten here to Diego Garcia?
Well, us native Diegans know how to relax. We don't worry about time. We don't worry about weather, whether it rains, whether it suns, whether it doesn't. We plan to do something, and then we go do it. It's just that simple.
Thank you.
Sure.
That kind of short thing. I mean, you look so native, yeah.
Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Focus. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. Before we go, we'd like to take special time to thank Navy journalist Kathy Hines for all of her hard work and effort in putting together this program. Kathy's leaving us this week and will be heading off to the Navy Broadcasting Detachment in Rota, Spain. She'll be sorely missed. Tonight, rather than our regular Focus outro, we're going to leave you with a musical interlude. We'll be back on March 15th with an all-new program, but until then, I'm Navy journalist Kevin Clark. For all of us at Navy Broadcasting, have a good night and a pleasant weekend.
You say was